Hey there, movie buffs and TV junkies. Welcome to the Drive and Chat podcast, the show where we roll out the red carpet for all things film and television. I'm Gabe Whiteman, and today we're diving into the chaotic world of Agatha All Along. If you've ever wondered what happens when you mix witchcraft, family drama, and a dash of cheesy writing, you're in for a treat. The series started strong, showcasing fascinating character arcs, I guess you could say, and some killer reveals, but by the end, it just felt like we were almost trudging through a hodgepodge of cliches, and there were so many unanswered questions. So I guess the question is, was it a spellbinding success or just another Marvel misfire? So let's break it down. But first, did you actually catch the recent news on Spider-Man? So, if you have not seen, there has actually been some news regarding Spider-Man 4 recently. And so what ended up being revealed is that there was actually I guess you could say a description slash plot breakdown of Spider-Man 4. It's usually what films have to submit for their film. So if you don't know, Spider-Man 4 is going to be recording soon. So which is actually pretty nice if you ask me. I think it's pretty cool. But what is interesting is that usually when studios need to film soon or whatever the case may be, you actually need to submit what you're filming for, what is this movie that you're filming. And so they officially submitted what they're filming, which is Spider-Man 4. However, it did get leaked. It did get leaked on who. First off, it actually leaked who actually leaked it, but it reveals a ton of locations and everything. So first off, it is actually filming in May 25th of 2025, and as of right now, and they are supposedly actually shooting in United Kingdom. And then, of course, it has the usual producers: Amy Pascal, Kevin Feige, Louis Despacito. It has writers Chris McKenna and Eric Sommers writing, which I believe wrote the last couple Spider-Man movies, so I think we might be fine. And of course, it says director is Destin Daniel Cretton. The cast, however, is only saying Tom Holland, Zendaya, so it's not showing the full cast. So I don't know who else is going to be signed on to this. But as of right now, those are the only two that are signed. And then the rest of it is just a bunch of lame stuff. But the real meat of this is the description, because it actually says the description of Spider-Man 4, which is actually pretty insane if you ask me. So this is exactly word for word the description slash synopsis for Spider-Man 4. Here we go. Following the events of Doomsday, Peter Parker is determined to lead a normal life and focus on college, stepping back from his responsibilities as Spider-Man. However, peace is short-lived when a deadly new threat emerges, endangering his friends and forcing Peter to reconsider his promise. With stakes higher than ever, Peter reluctantly returns to his Spider-Man identity and finds himself teaming up with an unlikely ally to protect those he loves. And so that was a full description, which is pretty vague, but it sounds like a pretty standard Spider-Man movie if you ask me. However, after the description, it does say the people that are mentioned. It's not confirmed, but mentioned to join the cast, which are Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. So that might be the ally that they're talking about. However, there has been news saying that Daredevil might be the ally, and he might be in Spider-Man 4, but who knows. Michael Keaton as Vulture is mentioned as showing up on the cast, so he might be the villain, but at the same time, he's already been a villain in Spider-Man, so it would suck if that was him, because we've already gotten it, so I guess it would be like a repeat of Homecoming, but who knows. And then the major one, it lists word for word Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom as joining the cast for Spider-Man 4. So personally, I don't think Dr. Doom would be the enemy or the villain of Spider-Man 4. I don't think so. So I think he might show up, and I think it says it mentioned him in the cast just because I think he might show up in a post-credit scene or something like that, because this is following Doomsday. This is going to come out after Doomsday. This is going to be connected to that movie. So who knows? But of course, it says It says it's going to actually film from late May 2025, which is May 25th, to late October 2025. So, which is actually not bad. I mean, for it being being released in what I think it said July 2026, that's actually not bad. And we actually found out a title for Spider-Man. Spider-Man 4 is officially called Spider-Man Brand New Day, which honestly, at least for me, I like it. I think it's actually a good title for the movie because one, it stems away from the whole home themed thing. So that actually sounds pretty cool. And plus, a brand new day kind of signifies and signals like a new mark in the Spider-Man trilogy or Spider-Man franchise. So like this is the first one in a new trilogy, so it's a brand new day, it's a new leaf, you know. So honestly, I kind of respect the logo and the title. I kind of respect that. But as far as the description goes, I'm pumped for it. I am more excited now. However, I'm still wondering how Doctor Doom fits into all this. Because that's the thing. Doctor Doom was announced that he's going to be the villain for Avengers Secret Wars and Doomsday. But we haven't seen him at all yet. So, which is really sucks. This whole saga is kind of going down a trash chute right now. And even Marvel thinks so because they're trying to get this done. So, which is not a good sign. But anyways, so that was the news for Spider-Man. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out after this episode. I might link it in the description. We'll see. It's a picture, so it is on Twitter. So honestly, you can probably just go on Twitter and find it. But that was it. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's actually really interesting and read it for yourself. Now let's get into the review for Agatha All Along. Agatha All Along follows the enigmatic Agatha Harkness as she navigates the trials of witchcraft, family ties, and some pretty wild transformations. Directed by numerous directors such as Jack Schaefer, Rachel Goldberg, and Ganja Monteiro, and featuring standout performances from Kathryn Hahn as Agatha and Aubrey Plaza as Rio, this series takes us on a journey filled with twists, turns, and a sprinkle of chaos. We witness Agatha's past, her battles, and her questionable decisions, all while trying to figure out who really is pulling the strings. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the series. So I basically took notes on like literally everything, and so considering that there is 9 episodes to this, there's a lot to cover. So I think it's gonna take a solid second to get through this, but I'll try to go through it quick. So first off, let's start off with cinematography. So first, one thing that I thought was actually kind of cool when it comes to cinematography was episode 4. There's a scene in episode 4 where Rio is like coming out of the zombie effect, or like coming out of the ground like in a zombie-esque form. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. I guess you could actually probably put it on like under acting, I guess, but I thought it was actually pretty good cinematography wise. It kind of and I mean, once you find out who she really is, it kind of actually connects to herself and actually connects like what she's actually doing and what her actual character is. And so her coming out of the ground like in a zombie-esque form, it was actually kind of cool, and it connects to her character. Another thing in episode 4 that I thought was actually really cool was the demon/witch thing. So if actually I totally forgot to say this. If you haven't watched the series, go watch it. This is going to be a lot of spoilers, so spoiler warning right now. Okay, now let's get back to it. So, episode 4 has this like demon like witch thing. If you didn't know, that's the one where they're like dressed in like 80s costumes, I guess you could say. And yeah, it's a lot of like just like 80s theme, I guess you can call it. I don't know what else to call it. So, anyways, but they summon this demon witch thing, or not summon, but the demon witch appears, and it's actually practical. I think it was, I can't remember from like behind the scenes if it was like practical or not, but it was actually really cool. Like the wings and face and like everything was like really sick. I think the only thing that they said that was VFX in that shot was the fire, because it like ends up disintegrating and stuff. But that was like literally the only part that was actually like VFX. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. But yeah, no, the demon witch, like it was like red. It looked like something like straight out of hell. So I thought that was actually pretty cool. I think they really nailed it with the design. Now moving on to episode 5, and yes, I did skip episode 1, 2, and 3 as far as cinematography goes. Cinematography was good in those episodes, but it was kind of later into the show where cinematography started to pick up. So episode 5 was the interesting. So interesting with the Salem 7 and the Witch's Road was actually pretty cool because like we kept seeing the Salem 7 throughout the show, which I do have a problem with towards the end of the show. So and I'll get into that later, but focusing on episode 5, I thought the Salem 7 was actually pretty cool because like they had their own theme music, they had like their own like thing going on and everything, and so I thought it was actually like really cool. I mean, and on top of that, I think this was actually the first time we saw the Salem 7 in the Witch's Road, so which was actually pretty cool. And plus on top of that, we saw their transformations, quote unquote. So like one of them turned into a fox, one of them turned into a mouse, I think, and I forgot what the other animals were, but yeah, no, I thought it was actually like really cool. The other thing that was from episode 5 that I really liked when it comes to cinematography was the scene where they ride brooms. So, this scene I'm not too particularly, I guess, happy for, but it is what it is. I mean, you can't really change it. So, it's a scene where they ride broomsticks and they act like actual witches in front of the orange moon, which is actually, that part was actually kind of cool. Cinematography wise, that was actually kind of cool because it showed them in front of the moon. The moon was orange. Like it had, like during that scene, it definitely had that Halloween vibe. Like that was actually like really cool. However, they said that they said like, I mean, not I wouldn't say word for word, but they said they hate doing this because it's a cliche on their culture. But yet they rode brooms. So like, wouldn't it technically counteract its own cliche? I mean, like, if you, so like they ride brooms, but they said that they hate it because it's a cliche on witches in general, but yet then they did it, and there's even a spell on how to do it. Like, you see where I'm getting at? Like, I don't know. They say it's a cliche, but they have a spell for it. They like how to actually have like flying broomsticks, and I don't know. It's like they say it's a cliche, but then they go and do it, so like it counteracts its own cliche. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that has a problem with it, but at the end of the day, it was actually still kind of cool, but at the same time, it was kind of cheesy. It was slightly cheesy just because of what they were doing. But other than that, it was still kind of cool. And then finally, episode 6, it's kind of cool with the intro. So episode 6 was basically like the solo, I guess you can say solo Billy episode. So episode 6 like opens up with the I can't think of the name for it, but it opens up with Billy's character, or John Locke or Joe Locke, whatever his name is, being in a synagogue, I want to say it's called, and it's just showing the Jewish culture and everything, which is actually kind of cool because I thought the camera work was good, the cinematic music was good. They kind of like, honestly, they really handled like the Jewish religion like really well, and it seemed like, I don't know. I mean, I will say, did him being Jewish have any part to play in the series? Not at all. Not at all. Like, it really had nothing to do with the series. So, like, yeah, it was pointless. I don't know why they just decided to make him Jewish, but I think it was just a diversity thing. But but still, at the end of the day, it was actually still kind of cool with the camera work, the music, and everything. And when they actually showed the whole like Jewish religion and everything, it was actually pretty cool. I think they actually nailed it like spot on, because I've seen that stuff before in like movies and stuff. So I think they nailed it. And then to end the cinematography section, the VFX of Agatha's corpse fusing into the ground and like decomposing at episode 8 was actually really cool. So, for context, yes, Agatha does die, and then from death herself, which we will talk about later. And I thought it was actually really cool because like because she dies. I mean, it was very dramatic, but she dies, and yeah, and then the effects, and then she like is laying and then her corpse is laying on the ground, but like it shows her from her head to her toes like fusing into the ground and like decomposing, like even like we see her skeleton and everything. And so we actually see her in like decomposing everything. And what's funny, or not funny, but like a good nod is that I think it started growing azaleas, which is what Agatha said to Death on like later in the episode. It was like, oh hey, like take the boy, make sure to plant some azaleas on the way out. And then I think her decomposing body started sprouting azaleas. So, which I thought was actually pretty cool. But yeah, no, overall, the cinematography was actually like really good. Now let's move on to tone. So tone doesn't really have too much in this category. Like I have like a few things to talk about tone, but it's not like terrible. In episode 2, the part where they were like going to the witch's road and she gets behind a desk and was like, "Oh hey, this is not a car." That was so weird. Like I know she was in her own like mindscape, her mind hell, whatever you want to call it, but it was like really not funny. It really was not funny at all. She like literally got behind a desk like because I think yeah, no, that's right, cuz yeah, she was like, "Hey, let's go find the other witches." And then instead of going outside, she goes behind a desk with like a hula hoop or something like that. It was like, "Hmm, this isn't a car." And then grabs scissors and hands it to a teen and was like, "Oh, hey, you drive." Like the scissors are supposed to be the car keys. I don't know. It was so weird. Like I think it was supposed to be funny, but it was not funny at all. At least to me, it wasn't. It was more weird than anything. Like the scissors being like what she thinks is a car key was funnier than the whole desk thing. I mean, granted, the whole thing was not funny at all, but it was just like it was very weird. It was a very weird choice of like what they did. I feel like they could have maybe handled that better, but I don't know. It was like it's those parts where they try to add humor and it just doesn't really land. Episode 2 also had some good eerie moments. I know episode 2 is where they finally added like or finally introduced the Witch's Road and stuff like that. And so it did have its eerie moments, especially when the Salem 7 was like, I don't know, being witches or well technically undead witches and was actually like being creepy and the music was going and then the Salem 7 was like infiltrating the house. Like it was actually like really cool. Like I don't know. It sucks because it wasn't eerie the entire show, but when it did need to be eerie, it was very very cool. It was super cool. So I really like that. And then finally for tone, episode 3 definitely up its creep factor. I mean, I'll I'll admit I can't actually remember episode 3 cuz like you have to remember this is like 9 episodes over the span of like over what a month and a half. So like after a while they start to blend together. But I think episode 3 was the one with the I think episode 3 was actually the one with the like the Botox. I call it Botox. It's when their face gets swollen because they drink the wine. I think it was that episode. But no, I thought that episode is actually like it upped its creep factor just because like I don't know, because they started like hallucinating and everything. And of course, we got to see like visions of like Lilia, and we actually, I think we even saw Death in that episode for the first time, I want to say, and stuff like that. And so I thought it was actually like really cool. I thought it was really cool. I mean, it wasn't like the creep factor wasn't like totally upped, but it was upped. And that was about it for tone. Next for my notes is acting. So I hope you know I still have like 3 other sections to go through, so we'll see how long this episode is. But acting for what I have for acting is first off, episode 1, Catherine Hahn. I like Catherine Hahn, I really do, but I don't know if this was like intentional or if this was like maybe not intentional. Like I can't figure it out, but like Catherine Hahn was so bad at acting as a cop. So like in episode 1 it shows that she plays this cop. Like that's how she pictures herself in her like mindscape or whatever you want to call it. But I don't know, like her acting was like so guess you can say, I wouldn't say bad, but like it wasn't not good at all. Like I feel like she was like overacting, and I don't know if that was her intention or if that was the point of the character and the point of like what she was trying to accomplish or do, but it was very very weird. I don't know. I didn't like it. And then of course episode 3 they introduced Lady Death, which is Rio, which is Aubrey Plaza's character. That was that was astonishing. We'll talk about her later, but I thought that was like really cool. When and then in episode 5, there was like the time where there was like this point where Agatha like turns into like this, I don't know, I guess you can say like undead character, or not undead, but maybe like possessed, and she becomes like, and of course this was probably some like stunt actor, but like it was basically like this body like contortionist or something like that, and I thought that was actually like really cool, because like it actually showed, because it actually showed like her, getting on like all fours but like upside down, and so like it was actually like really cool. Like the whole like body contortion thing was actually really cool. And so I thought that, I mean, episode 5 was something else, but the whole body contortion thing was cool. Um on to episode 6. Episode 6, the actor, Joe Locke, plays a good job with like the whole confusion bit. So in episode 6 is when we got that whole like Billy solo episode. So that was when we saw Billy's spirit go into this random kid's body, and so he's confused, like, oh hey, am I William Kaplan or am I Billy Maximoff, type thing, which I already have my thoughts on it. But anyways, but the actor Joe Locke actually played a good job with like the whole confusion bit, and like and how like he doesn't know what's going on. Like he's trying to figure out if he's Billy or if he's William, and it was actually like really cool because like I don't know, I feel like he did a good job with it, because I mean when you're, I guess you could say, two souls in one body, it can get kind of confusing, I guess. But no, I think Joe Luck did some good acting when it came to Billy Maximoff, and especially episode 6. And then in later episode 6, we get to meet the amazing character Ralph Boner from WandaVision. And so, I don't think that's actually his actual name, but I call him that because that was actually his name from WandaVision. So in episode 6, I like how Ralph like still has like that humor to him, because he's always had humor, but the thing is though is that he's very like scarred and scared, and has like this PTSD like look to him. Like he had that paranoia thing going on like the entire time. So it just like circles back to the idea that like the events of WandaVision was like a very psychological puppet prison. It really was. I feel like they're really doing a good job showing like how mentally terrible WandaVision was, as far as her hex and like what she did to the people of the town and everything. So I think they did a really good job about it. And then Episode 7 was basically when everybody started freaking out, because that was when they revealed Rio's death. And that was insane because, like, I mean, it's crazy that it was like the death. Like, the death. Like, that was insane, man. Like, I don't know if it was just because, like, maybe it wasn't the Grim. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's because it's not the Grim Reaper and it's like death, you know? Technically two different things. I mean, not really. It's kind of like the MCU version of it, but still, it's still insane that we got Lady Death in the MCU. That was so insane, and Aubrey Plaza plays such a good job with the character. I mean, it's insane that we even got Lady Death to begin with. So I thought that was actually like really, really awesome. And then episode 8. So I have my own feelings about episode 8 and 9, but I'll try to keep it to a minimum. When Agatha dies in episode 8, that was the most dramatic death ever, man. That was like it seriously took like, I want to say like a full like minute just on her dying, just her falling to the ground. Like, what is going on? Like, as soon as I saw that, like, yeah, I thought that was super dramatic, but it really felt like one of those stage plays where when like a character dies, the actor like just drags it out to be on the stage as long as they can. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like, oh hey, no, I don't want my character to die. I want to be on stage as long as possible. And so they dragged it on like so much. It was like, hey, I'm falling. A minute later, I'm still falling. A minute later, I'm still falling. 5 minutes later, she finally hits the ground. Like it wasn't that bad, but it was so dramatic. It was stuff like that. I'm like, really? That sucked. And then episode 9. So the final thing that I have for acting is like the whole sequence in episode 9 for Agatha and then her son Nicholas together like through the ages is I thought it was like very like tender and sweet. I think it definitely tries to glue to your heart a little bit to feel like heartbreak when Nicholas walks off with Lady Death because that does end up happening and it's sad, but it's very I don't know, it's very interesting and the acting was actually definitely good when it was showing the whole like backstory with Agatha and Nicholas and everything. I thought that was very good. So, but no, that's all I have for acting. So now let's move on to direction. I have a lot for direction, so I guess we can try to speed this up a little bit. So episode 1, so in episode 1 there was a chase scene, and this is when we finally meet Joe Locke's character, which is quote unquote the teen, and which we later find out is Billy Maximoff. But during the chase scene, Agatha didn't have a gun. She was a cop, but she didn't have a gun. Like when she even heard something upstairs when she went, she wasn't pointing a gun either. And so the lack of a gun just made the scene seem silly. Like, I don't know. A cop usually has a gun, especially if he's trying to chase down and arrest a perpetrator. But I don't know. It would be like if I don't know if I was like serving tacos and I just gave you the taco meat and the toppings and everything, and I didn't give you the shell. Like it would be the same thing. It would be like I don't know. It's very weird. It would be like if I don't know if you had like a driving test, but and you have like your driver instructor, but he didn't have his clipboard to take notes. He was just driving. He was just he was just in the car. Like it would be the same thing. It was very weird. It was very silly. And it was even especially silly since she was making an arrest without handcuffs. Like, yeah, she didn't have handcuffs either. I don't think she even had zip ties. She was just like, hey, I'm just going to hold your hands and we're just going to walk and hopefully you don't run away. Like, it was very weird. Maybe that was their intention, but I don't know. And then another thing in episode 1 was Aubrey Plaza's character. So, which is Rio. So she tries to nudge like Agatha to break free, like, oh hey, break free, you can do it, you can break free, and like from like the curse like hex thing that Wanda put on Agatha. But then when Agatha's free, she tries to kill her. Like something, I don't know, something wasn't adding up. Like even after finishing the show, something's still not adding up. Like something is not adding up at all. Like I don't know what. I don't know. Looking back on episode 1, that was a very weird interaction. Moving on to episode 4. Episode 4 definitely tries to take a little time to ramp up. I mean, I could probably say that for the entire show. This show takes its sweet time trying to ramp up and trying to introduce things, but it was very slow. It was very slow. Another thing I want to say for episode 4, and I guess I not just for episode 4. I would probably say this for the entire series, but there's so much cheesy dialogue. Like there's a line in episode 4 where it says, "You don't need to know a person's name in order to know who they are." Like that was such a cheesy line. When Agatha delivers it, oh my gosh, it was such a cheesy line. It was like that was like something straight out of like a rom-com or something like that. That was so incredibly cheesy. And trust me, the cheesiness doesn't go away. Like in episode 6, I forgot. Oh, I think it was Billy that said this. Billy said, "I will not trust you, ever." And then literally right after says, "I'm not a nice person." Like, what the hell? Like, he was trying to act like this, this threatening badass, but then it, the way he said it, it just ended up being very, very cheesy. Like, I don't know who these show writers are, but I can't believe they wrote this dialogue in and thought that was like, oh yeah, no, that definitely was cool. That was definitely not cheesy or corny at all. Like, oh my gosh. It was so bad. It was like funny bad. And then in episode 8, there was a cool sequence in the beginning with cuz like with Alice like realizing she's dead, cuz I mean, I think she died in like episode 3, I want to say. Episode 4? No, something like that. But with Alice like realizing she's dead, because like she's looking at her corpse, and so Lady Death is like literally like right next to her, and it's like, oh hey, are you ready? And then of course she's breaking down because she, no one's ready for Lady Death, and so there was all that whole scene and everything, and honestly, I thought that was a really good take on like the whole like Grim Reaper of the MCU, because like usually that's how it is, like, oh hey, are you ready? It's like, no, I'm not. I'm really not ready. And then she goes anyways. Like, it's a very, very good way that they did Death. And that was like probably one of the times where we got Death like to the max. Like, that was actually like really, really cool. And then in episode 8, I hate it. In episode 8, there was like, so episode 8 opens with like the right after episode 7, where they can't believe Lilia died and everything and stuff like that. And then they go on, and then they talk about, I forgot what they were talking about, but basically like they were showing Agatha and Rio talking, and then they were showing Billy and Jennifer, or Jenny, whatever her name is, talking to, and they were like basically restating what Agatha and Rio was stating. It was almost like I hate it when Marvel has characters basically restate what was like just shown. Like, dude, we saw the reveal. You don't need to restate it. It was almost like they, I don't know. It was almost like they thought that they were gonna have like a younger audience, so they were like, "Oh, hey, we're gonna have a younger audience. How about we dumb it down so we know, so they get it. They get what's happening." Like, movies are starting to do that, and I hate it. It's like, you don't need to restate it. Like, move on. We got it. I hate it. Another thing in episode 8, trust me, a lot of things was wrong with episode 8. So episode 8, I thought it was actually like kind of a cool way, very, very dramatic, but it was kind of a cool way to like introduce Tommy into the MCU. So like, because I mean, it's revealed that Billy like has Tommy's soul like trapped inside him, I think, or something like that, something along those lines. And so unknowingly, he quote unquote gave him a body, and that's where the show ends. Show literally, I guess, ends. So I think there is going to be some sort of like series or something where they go and find Billy, I guess, but it's very weird. But no, I thought it was actually like really cool how they like, I don't know. I guess you could say, in a way, finally introduced Tommy. I thought it was actually pretty cool. And then another thing in episode 8, I might get a lot of hate for this, but Wiccan, Billy, whatever you want to call him, his suit was stupid. Like, I don't know. It was like Agatha got out of the trial at the end of episode 8, and then she gets her confrontation with Lady Death, and then Wiccan comes out of just out of like nowhere, and he's literally like flying into the ground, or flying to Agatha, and yeah, he has a suit and everything. So like, first off, when did you get the time to make your suit? And two, it just seemed like it happened out of nowhere. Seriously, seriously, he came out of nowhere, and his suit like doesn't look good either. Like, it looks very, like, I know technically if you compare it to the comics, yes, it is comic accurate, but it is very just not. I guess you wouldn't say stupid, but it's just very basic. It's literally just a red hood cape thing with a blue suit, and that's it. I mean, I did see this morning that apparently it has like some cape material from Wanda, and then has like Vision's theme or Vision's like look on his cape as well on the underside of it, which was like kind of cool. But at the same time, Wanda and Vision have nothing to do with the series. Like they're Vision's not even mentioned in the series, and Wanda is mentioned a couple of times, but like is easily dropped by like the fourth episode. So like they have nothing to do with the series, and I don't think Billy actually cares that his mother and father are Vision and Wanda. So why they gave him material for that suit to pay homage to his parents, I don't know. But that's not even the thing that got irritated at. When Wiccan like flies in and to Agatha, Agatha says like, "Oh, you look good," and then Billy responds back like, "You don't." It's like that was so cheesy. It was like, "Oh hey, you look good." It's like, "You don't." It's like what? That was so cheesy. That was like at that point I was like, okay, how much more can this series get with being like cheesy, cliche, and corny like all at the same time? It was so bad. It was so bad. And then another thing in episode 8 was that he made this like whole fit on like how, and when I said he, I meant Billy. So Billy like made this whole fit on like how he doesn't trust Agatha and that she's evil and untrustworthy. But then in episode 8, when at the end of the episode, he flies in and is acting like all friendly and is giving his power. So like it doesn't make sense at all, which I don't know. It's very weird. Cause like even in episode 9, he went from like hating her to liking her to hating her to liking her to hating her to liking her. It's like, dude, make up your mind. You either hate her or you like her. Like, make up your mind. It was very irritating that he kept like basically changing his mind. It was irritating. And episode 8 honestly felt like more of a finale than episode 9 did, if I'm being honest. Episode 9 did not feel like a finale at all. It felt like I don't know, the last 10 minutes of a finale, if I'm being honest. But, I mean, I don't know. It was very weird. Episode 9 also had Agatha just turn into a ghost, which I don't know if I like. Like, yeah, it is comic accurate, but, like, I hope you know, she was a witch. Alice was a witch. Lilia was a witch. Like, I mean, Miss Hart wasn't, but those two were witches. So why didn't they turn into ghosts? Like, I don't know. So they didn't turn into ghosts, but yet Agatha does. I don't know. It was very weird on how they did it and everything, to the point where, like, it was very obvious that they just wanted her character to stick around. It was very, very obvious that they just wanted her character to stick around. Because, like, come on. Why else would she be a ghost? You cannot just tell me it was just for comic purposes. So, yeah. And so that was actually everything I have for acting. Or for direction. Sorry. Direction. In conclusion, Agatha All Along felt like it was a really solid show. It had decent character development and arcs. I liked how each episode was centered around a trial for the Witch's Road. Granted, not all of the trials felt necessary or good, but overall the trials were an interesting spin, and it led to some good moments and crazy reveals such as Lady Death. Like, that was a crazy reveal. However, towards episode 7, it felt like the series went seriously downhill. Like, yeah, episode 8 was good due to the reveal that none of it was real. But it felt like episode 8 was like the finale, and episode 9 was just a lacking part 2 of the finale. Which sucked due to the half of the episode being dedicated to the explanation of the Witch's Road and Nicholas. But then the second half is just dragged. And then to top it off, the show ended up being really dramatic and had a lot of cheesy writing in moments. Additionally, it had some pointless deaths that by the end further proved that they were pointless. And also, just to top it off, the finale did not make sense at all. Like, how come Agatha turns into a ghost even though everybody else died and they didn't turn into ghosts? And now it's going to be some buddy cop adventure to go find Tommy? Like, that's not a good way to end the show. Plus, there were some questionable pieces of plot that vanished, such as, like, what happened to the Salem 7? Like, are you really saying that they got impaled by swords and, like, that was it? Like, all that build up for nothing? It was very weird how they just cut that storyline all together. Like, we never really got any background on them or how they are connected to Agatha at all. So it was very weird how they actually did that. And also, it felt like there was no real threat or danger for like the whole show. It felt like there was like no implications on the real world. It was all contained within like this one area, and it was heavily dramatized. So it makes it feel like it's on like the same level as Hawkeye, even though none of it was real. And to top it off, there was no antagonist at all. You can say Lady Death is an antagonist. She wasn't. She was not. She was not an antagonist until like episode 8, which is like basically the end of the series. So there was no antagonist at all. You could say maybe the Salem 7 was an antagonist, but we barely saw them and they barely did anything. So there was no antagonist at all in the entire show. The show consisted a lot of questionable choices and unexplained phenomena, but like at the end of the day, it's not a bad show, but I felt like it was pointless. Like, I mean, to begin with, the show was never asked for. Nobody asked to make an Agatha All Along episode or show, but like it wasn't bad. It was solid, but it wasn't bad. However, they could have probably done better with the show. So at the end of the day, it was just okay. I felt like it was just okay. There was nothing like standing out. I felt like it was kind of solid, I guess you could say, but they could have probably done better. So I think this show deserves a 6.5 out of 10. Like, I know there's a lot of people giving it like maybe a 5 out of 10 or something like that, but this show is a 6.5. At least for me, it's a 6.5 out of 10. Like, I feel like they could have done better. But if you enjoy the show, make sure to leave a review, follow us for the latest updates, and join us next week for some cinematic fun. Until then, keep the popcorn poppin' and the reels rolling.